Hey everybody, welcome to Redbird Landscape Design. I'm Anieca Turner. As promised in the last video, I'm getting ready to set up a site to plant coral honeysuckle. Also, I have an orange tree that I'm probably going to hold off on. I'll tell you more about that going into this video. And also maybe a jackfruit we might plant as well. Let's get into it. So here is the honeysuckle, otherwise known as a coral honeysuckle. And it has really grown out all the way down to here. This is the growing tip. Comes all the way back. Very, very woody. This guy was a cutting when I first stuck it in the pot. And I literally stuck it in the pot. I got the cutting from a parent plant, which you can consider the original plant from where this came from. So I'm setting up to plant this. I'm standing in front of a gate, a fence line, and this faces south. If you do the research, honeysuckle likes to be planted on a west-facing wall. That's not a thing for me. So we're going to go with it. I'm under the really big oak tree, and you can see all my stuff set up to do the shots. So we're going to plant it approximately right around in here, I believe. We'll see how the roots of the tree dictate where I'm going to put it. So my goal is to have it to grow up and over the fence line, and obviously maintain so I don't drive the neighbors crazy with it. But it's a great plant, easy to get cuttings. I mentioned that in a short, I believe. Check that out. I'll put the link in the description box below. And just to show you, it started off in a pot that I stuck it in. This is curcuma. That's another short I did. And what I have, I'm setting up for my job, right? You always plan it through. So I have just regular gardening twine, scissors to cut it. Some horticulture gardener's tape. I'm not sure what it's called. And I have two kinds of shovels and a stake that I'm going to use to help it get secured and climb. The shovels, I brought two out to show you. This is your typical gardening shovel, long handled, right? Like 4 feet, whatever it is. And then this guy is a trench digging shovel. I love that shovel. For here in Florida, we don't have heavy, intense, deep clayed soils. We have very sandy soil, so it's super easy to dig through. Yeah, so that's why I use the trench shovel. Let's get to it. Another important aspect to planting is site location. Really do your research, understand what the plant needs in order to survive and grow. And you want it to thrive, right? Whether it's an orange tree or just something that's going to produce flowers and it's going to look pretty and bring in your pollinators. Site location is very, very important. You don't want to stick something that shouldn't be up against a fence, or if it's got a really wet location and it needs dry, if you need a lot of sun compared to part shade. So really do your research, know the specific plant you're planting and why you're putting it where you're putting it. And in that case, that being said, I changed my mind. I've moved it from where I originally had, approximately site location about 5 feet this way. I have a mulberry that's growing right here. This is a citrus. I believe it's a lime tree. Also in another short, I'll show you the link to that right here. So I've moved it over to the west side of the citrus tree. So right around in here, we'll see, because out of the shot you can't see it, but I have this massive oak tree that might be in the way. So we'll look and see what the roots are going to be like, and we'll go from there. So our first step is obviously to take the plant out of the pot that I have it in, right here. Don't want to disturb the turmeric or the curcuma in the pot. That's the pink flower that you see. So we're going to gently do that, and I'll walk you through it while I do it. So the whole idea of this is to try to not, so you guys can see what I'm doing, disturb too much of the roots if you can. Like, I'm not going to grab it and just yank it out. So I'm literally sticking my fingers into the pot and trying to lift the roots out. You'll feel them, and you don't want to hear a lot of cracking and snapping, because that's telling you you're tearing the roots, you're breaking them. Roots are obviously very, very important to the survival of the plant. Without them, they can't grab on and secure themselves and get water and nutrients, right? Coming along. Well, the whole pot wants to come out. Look at that. I think we might need to pot up to a bigger size. So with some gentle persuasion and running my finger along through the pot, I was able to remove a lot of the root system, which is exactly what you want. So if I hacked this and just destroyed it and put in maybe this above into the ground, I'm going to ask this plant to really struggle and fight hard to survive. All of this will help all of this new top growth to take off. So now I'll dig the hole. What you're going to do, here's the key with digging holes. So my root system is 8, 16, maybe 2 feet. I'm going to dig a hole that's 2 feet deep approximately and about 1.5 feet wide. Why? Because that way, when the roots are trying to dig down or reach down, spread out, you've already got that soil amended or worked, fluffed up, for lack of a better word. So that way, it's not trying to push through something that's already hard and rigid surface, or hard pan is another word for it. You want to have a soft, supple soil so the roots can really have a great opportunity to dig deep and spread out and get established. So I have it set in the hole. What you're going to want to do is not jam all of those roots in. I'm going to hold it up with one hand and backfill with the other, just like that. Make sure I have it facing the way I want. Don't twist the roots up, just gently set them in there. Gotta play with it a bit, and then backfill. So as I set that in there and I spread the roots out, I'm now kind of giving the soil a tap. Not really hard, just so I know that the pockets of air down in there have been settled. The plant's in the ground, backfilled, not too deep, and it looks like it's crooked to the left, right? It sure is. So what I'm gonna do, as I planned, I'm gonna put this in the ground as a stake. I did not buy this. What I did was I did pruning in my yard last fall, and I kept some of the stakes and limbs or branching from a tree that I took down. So therefore I'm saving money. So straightened it up. As you can see, it's much straighter now. And I also put the stake in back and behind. It's right here. There's the stake, runs up straight through here. And that's just to help the plant guide it up as it grows. I also tied it off. Let me get closer. Here and here, because that's the main stem. Runs right up through here. And then I brought it up onto the stake so it will continue to grow straight up the fence line, right? Also, I spread open the branches, opened them up from after pruning them so I can see what they're going to do more so once they start growing. As well, I'm resting some of it in the crevice of the fence line intentionally, because I know it will grow into that, get in behind there and come up. It will not damage the fence, maybe 30 years from now, but not anytime soon. My goal is to always try and put the right plant in the right place every time. And here it should do very well. This way I get eastern sunrise. It will come over, and then for the late afternoon, this monster of a oak tree will shade it and keep the roots cool, and that's a great thing to do. That's what honeysuckle likes, a cool root system with sun up above in order to produce the flowers. Next, I'll give you an idea of how and where I'm going to plant my orange tree. Hang on. Definite important thing to do after you've planted anything or transplanted like we just did, water it. Make sure you give it a really good drink. This is actually rainwater that I've collected because our area in North Florida has really gotten a lot of rain lately. So when you put water down around a transplanted plant, give it a minute, let it soak in. This will help knock out air pockets as well and settle the soil down. You may have to come back and maybe top dress it as well. Add a little more soil, but you don't want to plant it too deep. And yes, you can actually suffocate the roots. Here's some more information regarding the likes and dislikes of a honeysuckle, so you know what the growing requirements are, where they like to be, why they like to be, where you're going to plant them. Okay, let's move on to the orange tree. As you can see, I've got a huge oak tree right here. I've done a lot of research and found out that they do well underneath the canopy of an oak tree. Apparently, citrus likes to be under oak trees. Unlike you see in all the growing situations, they're out in the middle of a field Here is where I'm thinking about planting this orange tree, because it's in a somewhat protected spot and it'll get approximately 7 hours of sunlight, full sun. And then once it hits to be really hot in the afternoon, this oak tree is going to shade it, which seems to help it based on my research and what I'm actually doing in my own yard. So I'm going to be moving out that fern, and I'm going to put the tree just back slightly, not too far. I don't want to plant the two too close together. We'll move the fern over into the rest of the area. So this tree is just a regular orange tree, purchased locally. It's a navel orange. Hardly wait to get it to grow. So why am I not going to plant it today? And we may be getting a hurricane next week, or at least a very heavy tropical depression, a lot of rain and high winds. Hold off on planting it because I don't want it to get beaten up right when I just newly planted it. Transplanting a plant, which is what's going to happen, it's going to come out of a pot into a new growing space. It's shocking for plants. So you want to have the best opportunity for it to grow and be successful, and having a major storm come in and hit it is not going to be a success. Briefly, citrus likes to have a lot of compost in the hole. Do not put topsoil in the hole or peat moss. They tend to hold on to water, and citrus does not like wet feet or a wet planting site. Again, what you're going to do is dig twice the width, 2 to 3 times actually, the width of this pot. The hole is going to be, imagine another pot here, and another pot here, and here, and here. So that's how big that hole is going to be. And don't go any deeper than this depth of this pot, because then you're planting too deep. You will actually suffocate the roots. So I apologize that we're not going to actually show you how to plant the orange tree. I did give you some tidbits and basic understanding of how to do it. Not difficult, but I am definitely going to hold off. I don't want it to get destroyed. And I have some other fruit trees that are new, only been planted for about a year. If we're going to get a severe storm, I'm going to dig them out. They're not too big yet, and I can get away with helping them get through that storm. I don't want to have to replace a loquat, a nectarine, and an apple. They can get snapped where they're sitting. The wind comes from that direction, which would be east, and the ocean's not too far away from me. 20-minute drive, something like that. But which is nothing for high winds, right? So I will dig those out. Oh, I also have a fig tree in the ground too. So I will lift them and stick them in a pot and risk them going through some shock from being lifted out of the ground like that. I'll water them in well and cross my fingers. I think it's a better way to go than to have them get beaten, battered, and destroyed. Anybody that lives in the South that may be having to endure a hurricane and very high winds and flooding, as far as the vegetable garden goes, there's not a lot you can do. It falls back to the right plant in the right place every time. Planning it out. Hey, I live in Louisiana. I know I'm going to possibly get major hurricanes over the course of time while I'm living in this space. Or I live in Florida, or wherever. The Carolinas can get hit with it. So plan it out. My vegetable garden has fencing on 2 sides of it. Plus the house is on the 3rd side, and a gate is on the other side of the square. I intentionally did that. So if we get massive storms, it's not going to get the heck kicked out of it. And the wind, we can't do a whole lot about that. But hopefully that's why I have it where it is. I put it so that the fence and the house will protect it from high winds. Fingers crossed. That's all you can do. Flooding, you hope that your soil drains well. I've done it intentionally. They're raised beds. And again, things that I've planted in the yard are for Florida. If I lived in Michigan, I'd plant for plants that can handle and do well in Michigan. An upcoming video I'm going to do will be on native plants. Why plant natives? Because they can handle all the nasty weather in your specific location. If you're in California, Arizona, Ohio, New Mexico, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Florida, wherever, plant your native plants. They do well. They're very good for the local bees, your pollinators, which you have to have in order to have a flower, for the flowers to grow on fruit trees and vegetable gardens. And what is flowers at the end of the day? Food. So go native, and I'll do a video regarding that going forward. There's a lot of great native plant societies out there across the country. It's a win-win. You're not pounding your head against the wall trying to get something to grow where it probably shouldn't be. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Get on over to the short section. I do a bunch of videos that are real quick. Obviously, they're 1 minute or less, packed with lots of information. It's all about helping you be successful in your own yard, using things that you already have. Also using what Mother Nature already has you. As an example, I used a cane left over from taking down a tree. So planning a little bit, thinking ahead, it's all worth it. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Hopefully after the storm blows through, I can stick this citrus tree in the ground, and we'll do that one. And we'll discuss natives in the next video or so. Thanks so much for watching. The channel's growing and expanding, and I really, really appreciate it. Take care. Have a great one. Be safe. Talk to you soon. It's always about the right plant in the right place every time.